I don't know if I would have been the perfect fit for you 3-5 years ago.
Interesting.
Because my mentality was different then.
Right.
I was more aggressive.
Okay.
I was more about, well, come on, we got to do it this way.
Got it.
When I first started, I was trying to control the clients. So that would lead to frustration. That would lead to me going, why did they do that? I don't know why. And then I would have to learn from it because I would lose a client, because they would get their feelings hurt, and rightly so. So I had to start to teach myself, okay,
right.
Client first, Kimbo second. It'll come back to me. So sometimes as a trainer, you have to be careful because you can want to fit them into your mold. And that may not be what they need.
Kim Oddo, I just want to say it's such a pleasure to have you here. You have undoubtedly made your mark on the fitness industry and beyond. And it has come to my attention that, a lot of people don't really know about you and your history and what has made this incredible beast that you are. So that's what we're here for. And I can't wait to dive in.
Well, thank you for the kind words, first of all. And I've been very blessed. I've been able to enjoy a long career with having a lot of fun and a lot of athletes. And when I first started out, oddly enough, I started off competing, but it was one of those things where I came out of college and you play sports. And so then you go, okay, what do I do now? Where do I go? And bodybuilding was kind of a natural gravitation because obviously you did, with other sports, you did certain type of weightlifting. It was more powerlifting and for strength, but it was the same thought process of get in the gym, do your thing. Scott went into there, and if you're an athlete, with whether that's track or tennis or baseball or whatever you do, you're going to be competitive by nature. So you're always going to want to look for that next thing that challenges you. So I kind of gravitated into weightlifting, which then went into bodybuilding. And that was in like 1984.
So, but what sports did you do in high school?
High school, I ran track, I played soccer, I played baseball, I played football.
Wow.
So basically, if it rolled or bounced, I would do it. I played all sports. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to play everything. But you also
did boxing, you were saying.
Mm-hmm. I started off when I was young boxing, then went into karate, because back then it was boxing, kickboxing, karate, judo. So my parents had put me in a YMCA when I was young, so I kind of had that judo and gymnastics and swimming, and then everything gravitated out.
This is starting to really make sense for me. You are somebody who cannot sit still.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you've always been like that.
Yeah, I tease everybody and tell them, you don't want to be my only client at a show. If you are, I will drive you crazy. If there's 10 of you, you're going to be okay.
Okay, I want to backtrack really fast. We're going to dive into a lot of that stuff, but you were telling me about your name. So your name is something that, I think a lot of people, it's a very unique name, Kim Oddo. And you're telling me about how you acquired that name. So it was a cool story. So tell me about that.
It was funny because Bob Ciccarillo, when I was first coming up with the team, he goes, you should name them the Kim Oddo Dragons. And I was like, no, I can't do that. It's going to sound Asian. But and that was from my background of when I was a kid or was in high school. Whenever I would meet someone, whether it was a guy, girl, whatever, whenever I meet them, if they would wrinkle their brow when they looked at me, I'm like, okay, you expected a female? Or you expected a little short Asian guy.
Yeah.
And they were like, totally thought you were an Asian guy. So my last name, Oddo, is actually Sicilian. It's Italian. My dad is full Sicilian from his whole family's from Palermo. And my mom is German and Irish. And so 50% of my DNA, that's the back half, is my dad. That's the Oddo. And my dad's first name is Peter, but he had a lot of bad luck growing up, and he didn't want to pass it on to me. That was his philosophy for calling me Kim. And on top of that, Kim means leader. So they didn't want me to follow. They wanted me to lead. So that's where Kim Oddo came from.
Your name was a manifestation.
Pretty much.
It was, yes.
It worked, though. I got to say, it worked. It was unique because back that time there wasn't a whole lot of Kims.
No.
And it was an easy name to remember.
Well, I just thought that was like a really cool story, you know? It's something
Sure.
that a lot of people talk about, you know? You do have a very unique name and it stands out for sure, you know?
It's nice, you know. I've had so many clients with so many different names, and I always go, oh man, I don't know if I could have held that first name, or I don't know what I would have did with that last name. But this one was kind of simplistic and easy, and it worked. It fit the bill for me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of like go back to your childhood. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your upbringing a little bit.
Grew up in New Orleans.
Okay.
Lived in New Orleans till '86. Always played sports my whole life, going all the way from the YMCA. I think I started when I was 5, and I was there till I was like 11.
Yeah.
And then from there went into the little league sports, the high school sports, played some college stuff, and then went into the bodybuilding. So, but lived in New Orleans for 30 years, and I've been in California for 30 years.
Okay,
so
half
it's
and half.
kind of that even split, but total different. I was in culture shock for the first 2 years coming to California, because coming from New Orleans, everything is French, it's Cajun. And coming out here, everything is Spanish. I passed La Jolla Drive 3 times because I thought it was La Jolla. And so I didn't really know what tacos were, because we ate po' boys, and so it was culture shock, but a lot of fun. For what I did with my career, it was a good career move. But I still have a lot of friends back there that I love to go back. My family's all still back there.
Right. You were an athlete. It sounds like you were a really good athlete and you excelled in a lot of things, but you've found your passion in truly leading and being a coach. So when you discovered bodybuilding and you competed, at what point did you go, you know what, I'm really meant to be a leader and a mentor in this? Where was that transition?
Well, it was a gradual changing of the guard, because I competed for 14 years, and every time I competed, I would always train 1 or 2 athletes with me. Okay. And then that way I had training partners. I would train them for free. I didn't charge them because they were my training partners. And so I would train them. And eventually you take your physique to a place where, okay, this is about as good as I'm going to get. Right. I was never going to be big enough to do nationals. I had won all the open, lightweight categories in almost all the Southern California shows. Okay. And so it got to a point where I was like, okay, I've done everything. Oh, it's time for me to find that next step. And so, because I had already been working for people, I was working at a print shop, and the print shop closed down. And one of my friends, Timmy, was like, you need to do training. You need to be like Body by O, like Body by Jake. You need to be Body by O. And so I was like,
when was this?
Okay, I'll try it. That was in 90. That was in 90 I started with it.
Really fast, because at that time there were not, and I don't think it's hard for people to wrap their head around this, but at the time there were not many coaches. That's the thing that is hard for people to realize, is when you're like the first of something, you're really pioneering what this is going to look like for the rest of us, right?
Yeah, well, at that time, when I first got in, there wasn't a lot of teams.
No.
Mike Davies out of Ohio,
right.
Mike had the Fitness Factory, and we became really good friends.
Yeah.
I think just because we were the only 2 that was kind of doing it.
Right.
Then Shannon Day developed Bombshell. And so we were kind of the 3 at that time that
in the
had
90s?
Teams. That was in the late 90s,
okay.
Like 97, 98, 99, up in there. So we each kind of had our team thing. I remember talking with Ryan Benson from Zero Gravity and with Mike, and they were like, yeah, I remember I saw these girls around with these baseball shirts on, and it said Oddo's Angels. And they were like, who's this Oddo Angel guy? And what's these shirts? And so it was like way back when I first came up with the idea from sporting in my background. It's like, okay, we need to have a uniform. We need to be official.
But kind of like Charlie's Angels, you were kind of hidden. You were kind of a little bit of a wizard. hiding behind the curtain, right?
Yeah, if you're going to be a trainer, I always tell people it's the hardest thing you'll ever try to do is try to be a competitor and a trainer.
Yeah.
Because being a trainer, you have to be humble.
Yes.
You have to be selfless. You have to sit in the back seat and let the client get the attention.
Right.
And then after your accomplishment is done, then you guys share in whatever, whether it's victory or how well they did or whatever, you share in that accolation together. But you got to take a back seat and you got to have things from a different perspective because you need to be their anchor.
Okay, but I'm going to just play devil's advocate on this because I agree with you completely. But here's the thing. It's an interesting era that we live in right now because the trainers that get rewarded with clients are the trainers that put themselves out there the most, right? The ones who tend to gloat the most and put themselves in the forefront the most. And it seems like, maybe they don't have the most like long-term client success, right? Clients who've been with them for years, but that does seem to be a frustration of trainers who've been around for a long time because a lot of like older school trainers totally agree with your sentiment, which is the client comes first. You're not the star of the show. The client is the star of the show. But it's frustrating when that's how you believe, and the trainers who get so much of the attention are the ones that make themselves the star of the show. What are your thoughts on that?
I think social media changed a lot of that. Back in the day, we never knew. We didn't know who was in shows. You just hear through the grapevine. Yeah. Oh, Jenny Hendershot's going to be there. Oh, Kelly's going to be there. Or, you would just hear different things. Monica will be there, but you didn't really now. Every single thing going on with every single athlete, and sometimes that's overkill. With trainers, each person has to do what they feel is right that fits their personality. People who are more outgoing or going to talk about their accomplishments a little bit more. I just was never comfortable with it. I don't think it's not a right or a wrong. You have to grow your business how you think you need to grow your business. Right. And does it attract different types sometimes, different types of clientele base? I would say probably yes. Yeah. Because personalities are going to be drawn to certain types of personalities. Yeah. So I chose to do it the way I did because that was just the makeup of who I was. Right. I had fun. I enjoyed it. I would do my thing. I just not good in front of the camera. I belong behind the camera. Not good on stage. I belong behind a stage. Right. Because it's where I started to enjoy things and I lived vicariously through my athletes. So I achieved way more with my athletes than I ever achieved with myself.
Something I noticed that I picked up on is I remember seeing you right after Laura Lee won the Olympia. And I walked up to you and I congratulated you. And without even hesitation, you said, I'm so proud of her. She did amazing. So without even realizing it, you offloaded taking credit for that, even though I congratulated you. And you instantly put that on her. And that's exactly goes along the lines of what you're saying. You absolutely had a huge role in that. And I do feel like it's a team effort, but your first instinct is to give the athlete that praise and that credit and make sure they feel like they're the ones, and I really picked up on that. And I noticed that you do that a lot. And that's something that I've really modeled after watching you through the years and seeing how you operate.
It takes years of making mistakes. Yeah. You make a boo-boo and then you go, I can't do that again. I got to be careful what I do there. Because when you're first coming up and you're growing, obviously your instincts are your instincts. I had to teach myself how, stop, think, and then.
Okay, but what mistakes have you made? Tell me
probably, one. I told Laura Lee about a year ago. I told her, I said, I don't know if I would have been the perfect fit for you 3-5 years ago.
Interesting.
Because my mentality was different then.
Right.
I was more aggressive. Okay. I was more about, well, come on, we got to do it this way. And as I got into the back end of my career a little bit more, I learned how to be more compromising, more of a mentor with certain things. but yet very specific in how I work with people and what I do.
Right.
So I learned how to basically work with a client instead of trying to control the client.
Got it.
When I first started, I was trying to control the clients. So that would lead to frustration. That would lead to me going, why did they do that? I don't know why. And then I would have to learn from it because I would lose a client, because they would get their feelings hurt, and rightly so. And then I would have to sit back and go, okay, what did you do? Why'd you say, no, that wasn't necessary? So I had to start to teach myself, okay,
right.
Client first, Kimbo second, it'll come back to me. And the minute I started to do that, and then things came back to me organically without having to ask for it or without having to, search for it. It just came back just like what you did.
Right.
Then it was much more rewarding because
Yeah.
it felt real. It felt
Right.
like I wasn't soliciting it. It just came. And so then it felt more appreciative.
I think that's probably the secret to longevity in anything that we pursue, right? I think that having self-awareness and being able to be open to improving ourselves.
Sure.
I've noticed that people who last a long time in anything, they tend to be people who are not so righteous. Who are able to be a little bit more malleable with their, make a mistake, try to improve, make a mistake, try to improve.
Well,
Always
like
on the
anything
path.
else, it's growth.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this sport is more mental than it is physical.
Yeah.
So and with trainers, it's the same way.
Yeah.
We grow our systems, and it's learning and growing it to be more positive, more energizing, more user friendly. Then that way, now that opens up the spectrum of the clientele base that tends to want to come to you.
Right. So speaking of clientele, right now you're very heavy on the bikini division, right? But I know personally that you have coached every division. You're a master at your craft at every division. You have, kind of honed in, and you were explaining to me how that has happened. But take me back to your first, round of coaching, like the divisions that you coached, and what kind of led you to where you are here.
Well, when you first, my philosophy, maybe not everybody's philosophy, but when I first got it, I used to equate it to hunting because everything in Louisiana was hunting. Right. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go hunting for clients and I'm going to hunt with a shotgun. So my
That's a good analogy.
my pattern is wide. So this is all these different things I'm going to look at. So whether it was fitness, whether it was bikini, whether it was figure, whether it was, at that time there wasn't women's physique, but at that time it was fitness and figure, and then bikini came in. And so I started with this wide pattern. Then after a couple of years, you exchange the shotgun for a rifle. And now you hone down and you go, okay, I really do well with bikini. I do well with figure. Okay. And men's physique is okay. So now that's my little pattern. Then eventually that fades out and you bring a scope on. And now you target right into what you do best, which happened to be bikini.
Right.
And so, 1 year at the USA's, I had gotten 23 pro cards, and they were spread out through men's physique, bodybuilding. Well, no, not bodybuilding. Men's physique, women's physique, figure, bikini, fitness.
Oh my gosh.
And because I had multiples in all of those, then it would add up.
Okay, I have a question really quick. You had 23 pro cards in one show. How many athletes did you have in that show?
40. That one I had, 53. I had 53 pro cards.
That's like the whole show.
It was a big group. I remember that was when they had it at the DoubleTree Hotel.
Yes.
And we did a shot with JM. JM had gotten.
Do you remember what year
there.
that was?
Oh my God, it had to be. It was early 2000s.
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because my first Olympia client was 99, and that was Kelly Ryan and Lori Vanneman. And then I started picking up more amateurs, and so it had to be early 2000s probably.
It sounds like you were the only coach.
No, there were a lot of people. There was a lot of, Shannon had a lot of girls at that show. Mike Davies had a lot of girls at that
Well,
show.
the USA Championships has always been the
back
biggest
then
show.
it was huge.
That's the
That
biggest
was,
show.
yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Well, because I know that pro cards are, it's not that it's easier to get a pro card now. It's just that they're giving away so many, but it's also relative to the fact that there's so many more people competing. So there were less people competing, but I do know that pro cards were very, very difficult to acquire. That is so crazy impressive. That's nuts.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. Things like that happen occasionally.
Yeah.
I had a nationals where I won the overall fitness, the overall figure, and the overall women's physique, all in one nationals. And so every now and then things like that would happen, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, that's so cool." I have to remember that. That's a check mark, because it's like a breakaway. It's different from what, how your normal times go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have done it too. It's not specific to me. There's a lot of great trainers out there.
Yeah. You're so kind and so generous with your time, and you've been a mentor to a lot of people. But something that I want to know is, you've given so much and you stay so positive, but has there ever been like somebody that you've mentored that has like turned on you or anything like that?
Well,
because that's like something that I feel like a lot of people would relate to.
Yeah. I mean, I've had Olympia champions, that have gone to a different path. I've had Arnold's champions that have gone to a different path. I've always looked at it like, I never took it personal. And I think that's where you run into a problem.
Yeah, I think it's hard
when
to
you
do
put
that.
your personal feelings in there and you take it personal, then I think you're asking for trouble, because then you're going to get vindictive. The feelings are going to get harsh. I try to tend to look at it like everybody has to do what they feel is right. And in some cases, clients have gone and come back. In other cases, they've gone and done well. They've done good. And I've always been one to wish them good luck or to, hey, congratulations, you did amazing. If you're going to do something and be around it as much as we are, then why, if you're not having fun, why do it?
Right.
Have fun.
I agree.
And inspire.
Right. Well, you've helped a lot of athletes, and you've also helped a lot of coaches, because there's a lot of coaches that have, maybe not even to your knowledge, have been mentored by you just by watching you and observing you and the way that you operate. But I would love to know your thoughts on this kind of like the new wave, because when you were coaching and there was just you and Shannon and Mike Davies, and now there's, everybody who competes, I feel like maybe even some people who don't even do a show, the first show, people are stepping into the role of being a coach. Like, how has your experience been with this evolution of kind of new age, so many coaches on the map?
Well, it's a lot more diversified.
Yeah.
And so when we were competing, it was kind of more out of the love of competing. Right. Now it's a little different.
Yeah.
Now people compete with the mindset of, I want to be a trainer. I want to be able to earn a living that supports my competing. Right. And that's fine. It's a hard thing to do, because then when you're in prep mode, it's hard to be that person that's behind, them instead of in front of them. Right. And so it's just where things gravitated with social media. I think that really opened up the doors for a lot of online, because when I first started, nobody was doing stuff online. Right. Everything was basically one-on-one in where you were going. And when the trio there came around, we started opening up more online, and then the online started to grow. But then all the other stuff came in, social media, Zoom, Skype. And then now you can do in-person. I have probably 20, 30 clients that are all over the country, all over the world. And so it enables you to do one-on-one, things with them that you couldn't do before. Yeah. So I think it's just the natural gravitation of, the industry and technology. And just people's thoughts, a lot more people are doing training because it's a way for them to earn the income to support their sport.
Yeah. So you think it's a net positive in the end? Mm-hmm.
I do. No one's dream should ever be curtailed. Yeah. Now, that being said, I hope everybody does it the right way, try to get certified, do your homework on your education, do things so that you are protective to the client.
Yeah.
So you keep the clients in healthy places and you pick things up. I have 3 or 4 certifications on eating disorders because that's a factor. When I started training women, I would always sit and study and go, where do they have the most problem and where can I really help them? And that became one of, after shows were over, people would go into abusive behaviors with food. And so I'd be like, okay, I need to learn how to help them with their mind so that they don't go from over here to way over here, and it creates an eating disorder. So I went through the College of Sports Medicine and took certifications on things and studied it, and it helps. All little things like that help, because how you train women and how you train men, that's 2 different thought processes.
Totally. What do you think is the biggest challenge? Maybe there's multiple challenges, but what do you think is one of the biggest challenges that somebody who is just trying to start out as a contest prep coach runs into?
Trying to break away from looking at the client like themselves.
Yeah.
And looking at the client for who they are and what they need.
Yeah.
So sometimes as a trainer, you have to be careful because you can want to fit them into your mold. And that may not be what they need. Right. So personalizing and doing things individualistically for each client, that's a hard thing sometimes.
Yeah.
And the bigger you get, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
Because now you have to make sure that there's not a right or a wrong way with the way you run your system. There's a lot of great trainers out there and they run their systems really well.
Yeah.
Each system has its little, I call it quicksand, that you have to be careful of. And if you can maneuver that, stay out of it, then you can be successful. But I think when you're first coming up, you have to learn how to treat the individual as the individual.
I agree. So you've honed in your craft, you have mastered your skill, but I have to imagine that there had to be probably several, but I'm imagining there had to be at least one like, oh shit moment for you where you're doing everything, mastering it. And then all of a sudden there's this influx of people who are kind of like copying what you're doing. And with anything, the person who pioneers has to continue to reinvent themselves, because as people copy, some people copy and they may even get better at your own craft. So you keep reinventing yourself. So tell me about maybe the very first like, oh shit moment that you had where you were like, I've got to reinvent myself. What am I going to take on next?
It would have been earlier in my career because I learned how to do things more specifically, and I made it become more about how I saw a client and my thought process, instead of making it be about a standardized thing where it's like, okay, this physique should have this many calories, should train just like this because it's this type of structure.
Right.
I took the scope way down and said, no, I have to be more finite in what I do. So I have to look at a physique and I have to dissect it.
Right.
And Laura Lee has helped me so much with that, because her body, it was like all these good body parts, and genetically I was like, oh my God, she's got so much potential. Right. And so you see all these and then you're like, okay, yeah, but I got to do this and do this and do this and do this and do this. Yeah. And her boyfriend Oddo trains her, and we work together well because we communicate well, we talk about things well, we stay on the same page, but it's that same thought process of, okay, we got to be specific to what those body parts need,
right?
And what we have to do with that physique, because otherwise you're just going to keep replicating the same physique,
right?
And that's where you get in trouble. So I think as I went through the years, I learned how to customize a lot more.
Yeah.
When you first start off, you don't know enough yet. Right. You're still figuring it out and all. But then after you start getting into the meat of your years, then you start getting better at customization.
Right. You separated yourself by specializing in your path. You rather than trying to be a jack of all trade, you kind of honed in on what you were really good at and you got better at it. That's really awesome. So as you continued, you had a, like I said, like there's like an oh shit moment. But the thing is, you have had to combat with all of the craziness, like all the social media and everything that, we're talking about right now with all these new coaches coming in, everything like that. The thing that fascinates me so much about you is that it seems so effortless for you. And I know it can't possibly be. So that's why I'm trying to dig deeper, because you make it sound effortless and it looks effortless, but I know that can't possibly be so effortless.
You have to limit the distractions.
Okay.
It's just like when you compete.
Right.
Limit the distractions. You're going to put a physique out there that you want to put.
You're right.
Bring in distractions, bring in drama, changes the whole body.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with when you're training and you're running, I run my business like a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an office staff, I have an office manager, and
Yeah.
I run it like a business because I didn't want to do scheduling. I didn't want to do collecting money. I'm horrible at that stuff. So I was like, nope, I'm going to get somebody that does that real good. And thank God I got Kat, and she
Yes.
does an amazing job. But I wanted to focus on what I do. So I have to block out social media, because if I get caught on that too much, now that starts to sneak in. It brings drama into my brain, and I got to push it back out.
Right.
It's pushing out as much of the,
Yeah.
I call it the junk, but you push out as much as you can,
Right.
so that it doesn't take away from your focus
Yeah.
and your concentration.
Right.
Because believe it or not, this industry, when you're training, whether you're training or you're training people, it takes a lot of concentration from a thought process to make sure that you don't go too far to the left or go too far to the right, and now you can't rein it back in.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who doesn't have the history that you have, who wants to be doing what you're doing, and has to rely on social media?
Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time. Grow slow. Right. It's kind of a crazy saying, but grow slow.
Don't quit your day job.
Yeah, just take your time. Because we're a service-oriented business. We provide a service, and you are only as good as the value of your service. Yeah. So if you take your time, you don't outgrow your service, where you can provide, top rated, help in what you do, then your business will grow organically. And then you will come to a point where where's your line in the sand and what you can do. Right. Usually on average, my clientele base has been between 400 to 600 clients a year over the course of the year. And it's been like that for probably 10 years. Wow. I think things are slowing down a little bit right now because there is a large influx of trainers, and there is, but again, that's great for the NPC and
maybe
the
you had too many.
Yeah, because that's creating more
Right.
clients on stage, and I can't say enough to thank the Mannion family for all that they've done for me and what they've done for us and giving us a platform.
Right.
JM, I feel like he watched me grow up, and I watched him grow up.
You raised each other.
Yeah, we've been around each other since like 95. It's been like forever.
Okay.
But it's fun. It's fun.
I could tell you have, okay. So I want to know, you had the main categories that you really have poured your heart into. You've had fitness, figure, and bikini. Those are the ones that I feel like I've noticed. I know you've done wellness, but I feel like you've really found your passions in, fitness and figure and bikini. Those are the most memorable divisions for me with you. So let's backtrack to fitness. Tell me the most memorable moment that you ever had with an athlete in fitness.
That one is that watching Jen Hendershot, Adela Garcia, Kelly Ryan, Laura Mack, which I trained a long time ago. Watching the level of their skill level was insane. Mm-hmm. And those girls would one up each other all the time.
Right.
I'd let Jen, if you ever met Jen, she is like the funniest personality.
She seems like she'd be a firecracker.
Oh, she was a little spitfire. But they would challenge each other and push each other
Yeah.
to levels where you just look and go, how are they doing that? It was insane.
Yeah, yeah.
And so to watch, yes, my portion of it was the nutrition and the training. They all had gymnastic, coaches. But to watch what they could do and the skill levels, it was insane. So whenever I would sit there and just watch, you hold your breath the whole time. Please don't let her fall on their head. Please don't let her. But when they would do a trick that you'd be like, oh my God, if she pulls this off, and they would pull it off and you'd be like, holy moly.
Yeah.
So it was, that part of fitness was just so much fun.
I think amazing, but also intimidating for a lot of women, which is why they added the figure division, right? And so then you found your kind of bread and butter as you kind of, enter the realm of figure, because a lot more women were like, oh, I don't have a gymnastics background. I want to do figure. So tell me about that.
Yeah, with figure, that became a lot of fun because that was the first time that I think a little bit more was focused on muscle and V-taper and shape. And so I was blessed enough to work with Nicole Wilkins. We won 2 Olympias, 3 Arnolds.
Yeah.
And so that was a whole different, because with fitness, okay, you had to develop the body, but you had to make sure the nutrition was great because they had that routine. And that was really, really important. With figure, it became structure and body and muscle. And so that was that next part that came out where you're like, ooh, this is kind of fun. So it's about widening the shoulders, tapering the lats so it ties into the waistline, creating a V taper, getting a little bit of hip movement out of quad sweep. And so figure I enjoyed for a long time because there were so many shapes and sizes of girls back then. Yeah. And man, to balance them and be able to play I always just tell them, your bodies are like Play-Doh. Yeah. Well, let's shape it. Let's mold it. Let's change it to what we want to do. And so it got to be a lot of fun because that's the first time I really, other than bodybuilding, which I did some female bodybuilders when I first started, this was even more so because this was on a structural basis. Right.
I remember when I first started competing, I remember seeing you backstage all the time. I feel like I was like, almost everybody in the lineup was a Kim Oddo client.
There was a lot of them.
And you always gave me love. My husband always trained me, but you always treated me like I was one of your own. So I always felt so special.
Well, you see the same people. When somebody looks at you and smiles, you can't help but go over and go, hey, how's it going? Hey, if you need anything, let me know.
Not everyone is like that, though. Not everyone is like that.
It was part of enjoying the backstage experience.
Yeah.
And I figured if everybody was backstage having fun, then
I'm going to be there too.
It's going to be a great one.
But there was but there was a time when I stopped seeing you backstage. And I realized it's because you kind of found your kind of way more into the bikini world. Mm-hmm. You're honing in your craft and you start kind of streamlining yourself more into bikini. So then now we enter the world of bikini. So tell me all about your history with that.
Well, with bikini, it actually started that I had the first bikini Olympia, Sonia Gonzalez. And she came from figure, but she was a smaller figure girl.
Yeah.
She had good V-taper, but she had a smaller lower body. Mm-hmm. And I remember, we were working and I was like, you know what? The bikini's coming out, Sonia. It's made for you. Because it's smaller, it's not as much muscle, and your lines, can go well, and and everything can run good. And I remember talking to Jam, and Jam was, she should do bikini. She's got the look that I think will fit that protocol. So that's how I segued from figure into bikini. She was my first bikini girl, and so like anything else, it was a big learning curve, Wow. So we did well. She won the first Olympia. And then from there, it was like, okay, like anything else, when they first come out with a category, there's always there's that little, beginning portion where they're figuring out criteria, and it just hones and hones. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get this really really pretty protocol that's like, okay, that's it. So those first couple of years, that's what we were learning and going with physiques and conditioning and how much muscle and posing. Oh, the posing was crazy. It was so different. Hand on here, straight on front shot, like one leg out.
That was so funny.
It was so. Sonia won the Olympia. I only let her do 2 poses because when she did the others, I'm like, oh my God, those poses they're not good. We can't do that. So we did one front pose, one back pose, and that was it.
Right.
But then bikini started to gravitate and started to really, and then it got to be more and more and more fun because bikini wasn't as rigid with structure as figure.
Right.
Figure, you were locked into quarter turns. Bikini, you had some wiggle room there.
You did.
You could sway a little bit.
For better or for worse.
Yep. So it became more fun because the girls could be a little more expressive in how they were showing their structures.
Yeah. Isn't it so cool when you think about the fact that you were a huge part of pioneering that division?
I was very blessed. I came along at the right time.
Yeah.
Because if you look at chronologically my career, I kept gravitating down. I didn't gravitate up. I gravitated down. Right. So I would start with fitness, which had a lot of muscle, then figure, which kind of about the same, then bikini, okay, that was a little smaller, then women's physique came back up again, so I did a little bit of women's physique, but I would keep, every time something new would come out, back to my background of wanting to do every damn thing that I could possibly do. Ooh, I want to train that. Let's go. Let's do it. So it's kind of part of it is wanting to convince yourself, I could do that. I could train men's physique. I could train classic men's physique. And one Olympia I did, I had a top 5 athlete in all categories except men's bodybuilding, which I was horrible at men's bodybuilding. I would always tell everybody, hey, I'm going to send you to Hani because Hani knows it. I don't. I'm horrible. I might be able to get you to nationals, but I'm done. So, but I always, that was just in my personality. I wanted to do something. I wanted to try to change, but that's the younger side of your career where you want to you're still trying to find, okay, what do I really like? Right. And then when you get to where you go, okay, now I have time management. Now I have to be smarter about how I do things. So then you whittle down to, okay, here's my lane. This is where I fit best. Yeah. I still do little things here. I still do some figure. I still do some classic. I still do some men's physique. But it enabled me to give me my main thorough way that I could focus on.
Yeah, you're like a specialty doctor, right?
Yeah.
You're not a general practitioner. You have honed in your craft.
If you're going to do something, you want to do it to the best of your ability. And you see really everybody gravitates into that place. I have a lot of trainers out there who are friends. Some of them are great with, Ryan Benson is great with men's physique and classic physique and bodybuilding. Some guys are great with, with figure. Some guys are great. Damien's really good with fitness and figure. Right. You find your place. You find your niche and you find your place. Yeah. And so when you find that, stay in that lane. Stay where you're good.
Yeah. I think too, when somebody is trying to find a coach, and this is something I've noticed, when someone's trying to find a coach, a lot of times they place a lot of weight on, I want to find a coach, somebody who kind of looks like me, but something that I could look like. And people really, because there's so many options now, I see that a lot too. And, somebody who's like a really good physique athlete may not necessarily be good at coaching physique, or someone who's like a really good figure athlete may not necessarily be the best coach for figure. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's within each person's personality and skill set, because if you're passionate about it, you're going to succeed. Yeah. But just because you're a great competitor doesn't always make you a great coach, because you have to be able to get your ideas out of here and communicate it to the client in a positive, effective way. Yeah. And so that's a skill set, and so how we motivate people, how we structure them, that's all part of communication. And the better the communication, then the better the trainer and the better the athlete.
Yeah. You're really big on getting the message out there. You're really big on educating people. And I had spoken to Monica Brand about, she was doing something called Fem Camps. And she said that you were doing some of that with her. And that was kind of, I don't know if that was your first time like educating people on, nutrition and training and stuff like that, but you do a lot of that kind of stuff now. So tell me about your passion for that also, because that's a whole nother world that you're really invested in right now too.
Well, when you come up and I didn't go to school for physical therapy or, I don't have a kinesiology degree. So I had to self-educate. And I self-educated through the American College of Sports Medicine, through Dr. Fred Hatfield's books, Keith Klein's books. Keith played a big role in how I see nutrition because he was training Lee Labrada at that time when I was competing. And I always looked up to Lee because he was a smaller guy like me. He was aesthetic, very athletic. But I would watch and I would buy his tapes, eat, drink, and be leery. I can't believe I still remember all the stuff. But so you self-educate on a lot of these different things. Charles Poliquin had a big role in how I thought about periodization and training and things like that. So once you accumulate a certain level of knowledge, then it becomes about, okay, now I want to share the knowledge. I don't want people to think that, oh yeah, you just come see me. And I want you to understand why I do. Because when you work with people one-on-one, it's hard because usually you're in consultations for 15, 20 minutes. It's hard to expound on your thoughts, your theories, where things came from. In a seminar, you can do that.
Yep.
So usually when I do seminars, they're an hour and a half, 2 hours. You can expound in more detail why you have certain beliefs about certain things, and it comes from this knowledge. So sometimes when you do those, the most fun part of it is people come out, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea that sugar alcohols were processed through your bloodstream as a sugar compound. Or I had no idea that the serving size of Pam was only 1/3 second spray, and I was spraying the damn thing for 6 minutes. So
1/3 second of spray.
Yeah, I was like,
who does that?
Exactly.
Who does a third of a second of a spray?
I used to always say it, guys, because your clients would like draw Mickey Mouse heart in the pan. Saying, no. Read the serving size. And you're probably using 7 or 8 servings, man. That's like 5 grams of fat.
Yeah.
So it was just little oddities sometimes, but explaining, and there are a lot of good, trainers out there that, they have a lot of knowledge and they're good at explaining the kinesiology part of training, anatomically, to where, okay, this works with this and this is why this does it. So sometimes that helps. It helps with athletes. It helps the athlete to get a better grip on why you do things a certain way.
I think as a leader, you reach a point where you work so hard to acquire your knowledge and you're teaching yourself. You're trying to get all your resources together to understand huge concepts. And then when you get to this point where you feel like you want to give back, that is the sign of a really good leader. I truly believe, it's like you're at the point where, okay, I've learned everything. I've made all the mistakes. Now I want to try to help other people not make these mistakes.
Sure.
And I feel like you never say no. You and Sandy both. It's like you two are two people that I feel like never say no to anything. And you do travel a lot. I know you just came back from Brazil where you did a seminar, but you're doing stuff like that. I'm surprised I even got you here.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, and between Sandy and I, we joke about who likes to talk more because we can both just go
the two of you together.
Yeah, but it's just part of my personality. I've always been like that. I've always liked sharing and talking and exchanging thoughts, and either it's my client or not. There would have been times when I'd be like, you got a little bit of oil on there. You want me to help you take a little bit? Yeah. It's 5 seconds out of your day,
right? But
you just help someone that's going to feel much better about themselves when they step out on that stage, because it's all about the big picture. It's all about experience. So it's always been my thought of make the experience as positive as you can. If you make it as positive as you can, they will come back. And when they come back, they will come back even happier and wanting to work harder.
And they do. They always come back to you.
It's been a blessing.
So here we are. This is our Make Your Mark series, and you're here because you have made your mark. You continue to make your mark. And so I want to know, if you were to look back at everything that you've done up to this point, what would you want people to say about you in terms of how you've made your mark?
He loved what he did. He showed us attention. He was passionate, and he loved what he did, and he enjoyed every moment he had, with each of us. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing really matters. It's the experience that you carry with you. A trophy can sit over there on the ground and collect dust and be a trophy. You forget about it in 10 years.
But you have a lot of those.
I have a lot of those. But the experiences, the things you've done with people that then are seared into your mind, that you carry with you for your lifetime. So talking back about, oh my God, I remember, we had 53 girls at a show, but we had so much fun. We were running around doing this and running around doing that. It's that experience. Yeah. That's what, if people say, hey, he was passionate, he loved what he did, he gave it everything he had, then I'm good. It's all good.
I think mission accomplished, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure. Kim, you're so amazing. I feel like we could definitely have a part 2. We have so much. I feel like there's so much to dig with you.
That's what happens when you're old. Everybody goes, it's like, don't say goat, because that means I'm really old. It's like, oh no. I have this little goat that one of my clients gave me. It's a screamy goat.
Yeah.
And so whenever my clients talk, oh, coach, I'm so hungry, I get the little screaming goat.
Remember, I'm
That's
the
what
goat.
I hear. That's what I hear right now. No. But yeah, it's when you've done anything for that length of time, you have lots of story and you have lots of history. And this is just one aspect of it. There's so many different, supplement companies and sponsors and judges that I've met throughout the course of the career. And there's so many personalities and so many friendships that you make. Right. It's insane.
I know.
You could talk about it for months.
I know. I keep thinking about more things that I want to talk to you about.
We'll have to have a 2.
We will. I know. We need part 2 talk about all the relationships that you've acquired over the years, because that's a good one. A lot
of them too.
That's a whole
nother genre
thing in all of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's very enjoyable. You are quite the host.
Yay.
And you have had quite the career yourself. I've watched you when you were like a little ballerina.
I know.
And you just blossomed into this multi-time Olympian.
Oh my gosh.
You have had a very, very blessed career.
Thank you.